Hello everybody, I hope you're well. So this week, because it's October, we're going to do a spooky tree sketch. You can see I've got some lovely haunted foggy trees in the background to inspire me, which is one I did a few years ago. So I'm just going to use some of my natural inks and a paintbrush or a feather to sketch with. And let's get going and do a spooky tree for October. So I'm going to use my iron gall ink, oak gall ink, to start the sketch. Just give it a quick stir. Now when you're doing a spooky tree, it's a good idea to carve out the middle first if you want this sort of tree, which is a nice spooky middle there. I'm going to give him some nice long trailing limbs. Wrapping around each other. And then I'm just going to build up the outside to really gnarly. And I'm going to give him a nice spooky top. And I might draw some kind of almost like eye shapes. But these are trees, so they're not actual eyes, they're just bits in the branches. And I don't want this to be hollow, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a background there. So it just looks like there's a hole in the tree. And I'll make this bit darker. I'm going to use the other inks as well. I'm going to give him some nice reaching limbs. Now when you're painting these trees, there's no right or wrong. Just go for it. Just get a paintbrush and just see what happens. Sometimes these little tree spirits just kind of appear to you. And that's what happens when I draw these trees. So I never quite know what I'm going to get. Who, should I say? Who I'm going to get. And then once I've planned out the shape, you can just start adding in some detail where you want it. Now this oak gall ink is the one that we made a couple of weeks ago, and it's really interesting. It doesn't seem to sit into the paper like some do, but it allows me to create these kind of streaky shapes with it, which I quite like. Especially good for drawing spooky trees, as it kind of looks like bark. And because the ink's quite thick, I can get a needle or a dry paintbrush and scrape texture into it as well. Let's just go around his eyes. Jagged teeth at the bottom there. switch to the other oak gall ink because it's slightly lighter, slightly different texture. This ink is actually kind of a grey and it granulates really well, so I'm going to use that because when it dries it'll have this lovely granulation effect. Blend it in there. Just going to add some little bits here and there because it will spread the ink out and look really cool. It's going to make the tree a little bit more gnarly, and we'll give him some extra branches now. We want them all jagged, so I'm just going to get the brush and just let it twist. Kind of like gnarly little fingers. Reaching up. Let's have one kind of reaching down here. Like gnarly little hand. Reaching towards you. So when you're drawing branches, just kind of keep the paintbrush loose and just kind of stretch it and wiggle the ink or the paint to where you want it, getting kind of thinner towards the end. I'm kind of blobbing this ink because I want it to pool and granulate, just to see what it does really. But I want the texture of the tree still. Can you see where it's starting to granulate already? It's making the tree look really cool. You don't always get granulation with your oak gall inks. It just seems to depend on the ink and on the year that you're making the ink, what the oak galls were like that year. I guess it depends on weather and how much tannin is actually in the galls. I don't really know, to be honest, but I've seen some people's oak gall inks granulate. The one that I made last year didn't granulate at all, and it was really black. This one, you see I've got these two different shades, this kind of really thick, weird, greeny black, and then this paler shade. I'm going to fill in his mouth with some plain oak gall ink. But I'm not going to touch the edges because I'm not going to let the two mix just yet. I'm going to go over that once it's dried. Just going to give him like a kind of an impression there of two weird little eyes. And I'm just going to go over some of the branches now, just to add a little bit of colour to his claws there. I'm going to let this dry a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit more into the middle so it darkens and just gives an impression there. And I'm going to add some splashes, because always have to add splashes just to make it look magical. I don't know why splashes make things look magical, they just do. Some splashes with the darker ink there. And it doesn't matter if things blot on there a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit of dark into that centre. And a little drop there in his eyes. I'm just going to smear that up a little bit more. I'd like a little bit darker around his eyes, but I might have to wait until the ink's dried. Oh no, I think we're okay. A little bit more defined I want around his eyes there. Going to add a little bit more blots of dark ink where I want it to be a little bit blacker, because this, I've used this so thick, this is going to take a long time to dry now, unless you use a hairdryer, of course, which you can do. I don't happen to have one with me here, so I won't be using a hairdryer. Reaching kind of arms there. Yeah, that looks better, doesn't it? And some gnarly fingers. There we go. A spooky looking tree. Just going to let it dry, and then you can touch it up wherever you want to. But for now, I think that's pretty good. So I'll see you again later for some more Halloween spooks. Bye for now.